Alright, hello my lovely friends. How are we doing? And today we're gonna be talking about what to do. Oh, let me introduce myself. My name is May. I help people who deal with anxiety, depression, trauma, mental illness, and confusion about their healing journey and take back control of their lives. So they never feel like their lives are stuck and stagnant. And today I really want to talk about what we do when we're trying to heal. We're really busy and we don't really feel like we can have time to heal, because I think a lot of us feel this way where we're just so busy that we don't really feel like we could take time out of our day to like meditate and like do all this stuff, spend 5 hours like reviewing all of our trauma and writing some deep journaling about it. That's not what this is going to be, and that's not what healing has to be, is the thing. Healing can also be in the little moments. And I'm not just going to tell you to breathe, because I think that's kind of like very generic advice. Just breathe, everyone, just breathe. That's not what we're going to be saying, that's not what we're going to be doing. That can be a tool, and I think that it can help depending on how you're doing the breathing, but that's not like the end all be all, and that might not be what works for you. But we're gonna break this up into two things, because I think people can kind of conflate them a bit. We're gonna talk about regulation, and we're gonna talk about healing, because those are two kind of different things. And in order to do healing, we kind of need to do the regulation piece, and maybe there are times where you need regulation or you need healing. So let's break both those down. So regulation is like tending to ourselves in specific moments for a distressing experience, or just moment-to-moment experiences. So it could be you're feeling anxious and you take some deep breaths, or you're feeling angry, so you take so maybe you like squeeze a stress toy or punch a pillow, kind of like those classic examples. Regulation also applies to our mind and our emotions, because in our mind, our thoughts can be going rampant, very negative thoughts, our scared thoughts, and then usually that comes with an emotion as well, feeling scared, feeling angry, whatever it is for you. Whereas healing, I conceptualize it as bringing awareness to the mental, emotional, maybe even physical experiences and attempting to process through them. Trying to feel lighter, not being like weighed down from the past or reoccurring thought patterns, emotions, patterns in your life, etc. A reason to create more space internally, clear out the blockages, I think some people, might phrase it as, is through regulation first. So you can kind of know which one that you're experiencing by thinking about, okay, I need regulation when I need regulation when it's a distressing moment or I'm feeling something that's really intense, and that can very quickly move into healing. Maybe you experience something distressing and you don't really need to regulate. What you're gonna do is healing. But if it's too much, like you're feeling like it's kind of overtaking you, that's when regulation needs to be. If you are, say, triggered by something and you don't need to regulate, you really don't feel like it's overflooding you. Maybe it's like a lot, but it's not, really overtaking you. So I'm gonna get to the, what did I say? I'm gonna give you 3 tips for each. But I just kind of want to go through some things first. So one thing is that people say they don't have time. The thing is, I'm sorry to tell you, it's false. It's false. Because, maybe you don't have time to be really like sitting down and like really thinking intensely about your internal experience. That is true, right? That's very much true. And I'm not telling you have time to do that if you don't. Your children, lives, jobs, etc., etc. What I am saying is that you definitely have time in like very little moments, like things that you may not even realize or think about, because we just get so busy and caught up, right? But it's in those moments where your mind wanders and is like planning ahead, right? Especially about your day, where you're like, I need to do this, I need to do that, there's that project, there's that person, there's that thing, there's this situation. So even if your schedule is like literally packed moment to moment, literally 6 a.m. to 12 a.m., packed, you still have time in there because there's variance in our lives, right? Meetings end early. There's time with even within meetings where like maybe you don't have to be fully present. Or it's a commute, you know, you drive, whatever it is, or you go to the bathroom. Bathrooms are always moments where you are, for example, let's say you're working on a project pretty much all day, and it's taking up most of your attention. You probably have time to take a 1 to 3 minute break to just either regulate or do some healing work, and then just go right back to what you're doing, right? And usually that actually makes you more productive because then you're not just like, just regulated or like way down the whole day. What I'm saying is you could definitely, I'm yawning. What I'm saying is you could definitely find time somewhere. Think about like those, or even just notice as you go throughout your days, those little pockets of time that you have, even if it's just a minute, where, you know, you can maybe tend to yourself a little bit. If you really feel like you have no time, comment below and like, I'll help you. Because I'm just like, I know you do. I know you could do it. I know you have time. And I want to help you find that time. So comment below if you have no idea and I'll help you. Alright, so first we're going to go through regulation. And with regulation, again, we're thinking about our mind, our emotions, our body. So the first thing I think is really tending to our nervous system. So let's say we're overloaded, we're really anxious about like a project we're doing, or something we need to do in the future, whatever it is. You can do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding. Take a very short amount of time. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Also breathing, I told you it was coming. We can do breathing. You know, I think especially focusing on our exhale, because that activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps with regulation. So I always like to count to 4 and then breathe out for 6. And I just do that over and over. But there's so many different ways to breathe. Box breathing. You really find whatever works for you. Number 2 is temperature changes. This also kind of like shocks your nervous system. It can really get you out of whatever state you're doing. So basically going from really hot to really cold to really hot, taking cold showers. This is why people usually will say, hey, take cold showers, because it actually does really shock your nervous system and get into a different state. Obviously we don't want to be more distressing, so if that's more distressing, don't do that. But you know, you can also splash water on your face, hot or cold. I like to go outside. I usually keep whatever temperature it is, like very different than what it is outside. I like to keep it really cold or really hot, depending on like what season it is. Ice cubes, our heating pads, you know, all in the name of regulation. And number 3, if you are feeling like there are a lot of things going on in your mind, then you want to be using some mind techniques, some mind coping skills perhaps. One that I really like is thought stopping, where you notice when your brain is basically just going down a negative rabbit hole. So if you're like really scared about an interaction you're about to have or a project not going well, literally imagining the thoughts stopping. So I always imagine like a boulder or something like going on the thought, and it's like, we're done. And then I will try to create like a different train of thought going, and you know, you might have to do it like literally a couple of times, but it's kind of like in the name of, I actually don't really need to worry about that. We thought about that enough. We're done. We're going about something else now. It's just kind of like a self-containment, like, you know, technique. Now, healing. This is what you're all here for. This is the big promise. So, in terms of like short spurts, this is kind of how I think about healing in little moments. The first thing is to bring awareness. So maybe you're literally just practicing, what am I feeling in this moment? Okay. Maybe you're feeling like you're a little off, or your mind's being mean or whatever. Taking that like 1 to 3 minutes to just be like, what is going on internally? Like what, like actually naming it. Sometimes that can be difficult to really name what's going on internally. So that's the first thing, is naming it. Second thing is to quickly reflect. So basically, have I felt this before? Like, you know, where does this come from? Is it from a negative belief or a limiting belief? Is this like an emotional pattern that I've noticed? Does it come from childhood? Did I develop it in adulthood? It's just taking a few moments to just be like, what is this? Where did it come from? Because you can use that information to do step number 3, which is deciding where to go next. Basically, once you're able to bring awareness to it, reflect a little bit, you're then able to move, okay, this is what I'd rather see instead, right? While honoring what is, but also where we want to go. So let's say that you are having like some sort of trauma response. Let's go there. Let's go that deep. If you're having some sort of like trauma response and you bring awareness to it in that moment, maybe do a regulation technique or two. All in the span of 3 minutes, by the way. This is how fast it can go, but you quickly reflect, okay, what were the other times that I have felt this before? Okay, I felt this in my childhood. Okay, I'm an adult now, and I'm not in that experience, so now I want to see if I can do X, Y, and Z. Maybe I can do some breathing techniques and tell myself, I'm not in that situation, I'm an adult, and see if I can just move on with my day. And just kind of practicing that throughout the day, you know, where you're catching yourself still in that response and you're like, nope, I'm going to ground myself, and then I'm gonna say, hey, I'm an adult. This is not happening for my childhood anymore. You know, let's invite myself to be more calm. It really is that fast, and you know, especially if you haven't practiced before, it can take a while sometimes to like even develop one step, right? So this doesn't have to be like you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like if we're at regulation, we just do like one regulation thing and move on. And if it didn't work and we still have to move on, then we do it, right? Because we're busy. You know, maybe you're just bringing awareness to yourself, you know, in those little moments. And that's pretty much all you can do. But eventually, as you practice, things get much faster. You're able to be like, okay, this is how I'm feeling this moment, this is where it's coming from, and this is what I'm gonna do. Like, boom, boom, boom. Don't even need a whole minute. I'm such a master, I don't even need a whole minute. And that's pretty much it. But literally, whatever you're able to do is fucking valid, because this world's hard, and we're busy, and we all got shit to do. So, basically, you know, you're a human being that's doing as well as you can with the tools that you got. So whatever you're doing a good job. As long as you're trying, what more can you really ask for, you know? Thanks so much for being here. Please like and subscribe. I just really appreciate you being here, and comment below if you want on like what sort of very short healing techniques you do, or grounding for regulation. Yeah, let's start a conversation about what we do to support ourselves. Please like and subscribe, and comment below on what you use as like regulation or healing techniques on the go. Let's start a conversation about it and support each other. Alright, thank you so much again for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Alright, hello my lovely friends. How are we doing? You are back for another piece of this, whatever this is sometimes. This is not the end of the session. Actually, this is the end of the video.